talked about our variables, we have 3 different types of variables. These are our independent, our dependent, and our controlled variables. Our controlled variables are our constants because they stay the same throughout the experiment, okay? And each variable is a big part of the experiment, and they are likely to change.
I hear so... Okay, Cordelia, you can owe me 5 minutes, and that can go in your backpack. I don't know how... And are you still chewing gum? Because I've already asked you to spit the gum out.
And then our independent variable is the one that is changed by a scientist in an experiment. Okay? And then scientists make their experiments using independent variables. To look over our dependent variable, it's what's measured by a scientist in an experiment. And then scientists determine the experiment outcome with a dependent variable. So you can tell them apart by the thing that's changed on purpose. This is the independent variable. What's being measured throughout or at the end of the experiment, and this is the dependent variable. Go ahead and look at this picture I drew right here. These all are represented in an experiment that I just came up with. So turn and talk to your neighbor about what these variables could be and what the experiment possibly could be. You may have totally wild guesses, and that's okay.
The arrow could be
I'm hearing lots of great conversation. I really like it. Okay, class. Who has an idea of what this science experiment may be off of just a few tiny things? Trevor.
Alex thought that if you plant a flower and you could keep waiting and see how, and the sun makes it grow to see how long it takes for it to grow.
So what are these variables representing? So you think the controlled one is a flower because it's what we're experimenting on. What about independent and dependent?
Dependent is how it's changing it, like how
Okay.
It's controlling what it's doing.
Yeah, that is a great one. Ella.
Me and Levi thought it was like the experiment, like how fast a flower can grow with the sun, and the dependent variable is the sun, and the control variable is the flower.
Okay, awesome. Oh, you want to keep going? Okay, does anyone have something different? Something different. Stella?
So I thought the sun, for the dependent, I thought it could change from light to dark. And the independent was, I used the flower for the dependent too. I would say it could change from seed to flower.
That is a really great one. And I'm going to take one final one that is different. Does anyone have anything different than that, Luke?
Me and Morgan thought the arrow would be like having the experiment we did having the magnet like with the paper clips right here and then the paper clips going up to the magnet.
Okay, cool. So you compared it to the one that you did before. So in my experiment, this is what I had in my experiment, but you guys all had very great, really logical ones that you could use. Put your hand down because I'm talking. Thank you. So in my experiment, in my personal ones, and once we have time, I'd love to hear all yours. My controlled variable was my flower. This is what I was experimenting on. Now, my independent variable was the amount of sun. You'll see why. My dependent variable is how much each plant grew based on the amount of sun. So if I were to conduct this experiment, I would have different flowers that were all the same type of flower because remember, different flowers grow at different paces. So I'd have all of the same flower, and then for each flower, I'd give them a different amount of sunlight, such as 2 hours, 4 hours, and some may have 6 hours, and some may have shorter or more than that. Then what I measure is this dependent variable, which is the growth. Okay, so I will be measuring how much each grows based on the independent variable, which is how much sun they get. But you all had really, really great ideas for experiments, and that'll be really beneficial. Okay, any questions on this before we move on? Any questions, Trevor?
No, but can I tell you another thing?
Okay, you can very quickly.
So the flowers that you're experimenting on, and the arrow going up is the temperature on how much
Oh, okay.
hotter it's getting, and then the sun is if it gets too hot, the flower will like die.
Okay, so you are saying that the dependent is we're measuring the change in temperature, and then the independent is the amount of sun with the temperature, and then the controlled is the flower, and we're seeing if it dies based on temperature or if it grows more. That is a really great one too. Okay, so you can go ahead and put this in your science folder.